everybody, it's Frankie-Lou. I'm coming to you today from the Grow Together homestead, where I'm going to start to show you today how to prepare a no added pectin, low sugar jam. I'm not going to give you a recipe per se, I'm going to give you a technique. I make hundreds and hundreds of jars of jam every year, but I don't want to be using a ton of sugar, and I also want to have the more rich flavor of fruit, not sugar and not pectin. So this is a method that I've started using probably for the last 4 or 5 years. Perfected it a bit, played with some things, and this works. So I'm going to get started today. The reason I say today is it actually takes more than one day to do this because there's a sitting period of a minimum of 12 hours, but honestly I've left this up to 4 days because sometimes things get busy around here and I'm not able to take care of it right away. So I'm going to show you how to do the first part, and then I'll come back and show you tomorrow, hopefully, when I get to do the rest of the canning. So first off, I've got about between 6 to 7 pounds of fruit. I'm going to do a mix today of stuff that I have around, a lot of. There's rhubarb. There's probably about 3 pounds of rhubarb here, maybe 3 to 4 pounds of rhubarb. It was summer, and I've also got almost 4 pounds of blueberries here. So I'm just going to give the rhubarb a nice fine chop, and I'm going to use my blender here to sort of cut these up a bit. I could use a masher, but I don't really have a lot of time for that, so I'm just going to quickly pop this through here in batches and layer it together in a pot, and I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so as you can see, I've started to cut up my rhubarb here, and I'm also going to layer it with a little bit of blueberry. Then just give it a quick whiz. The idea is I basically just want to break the skins of the fruit, because the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to be layering this with sugar in my crock pot. And the point of that is so that the sugar will draw out a bunch of the juice in the fruit, masticate it, okay? Because what I'm trying to do is get some of the juice out so that I can boil that down separately, and that's going to make a much nicer jam for me. Okay, so I'm going to take about a cup of sugar. All in all, with 6 to 7 pounds of fruit, I'm going to use about 4 cups of sugar at this stage. I use an organic sugar, and I layer it in the crock pot. I got an old crock pot here that the electrical component doesn't work anymore, but it's perfect for this. So see, I've just sort of layered a layer of rhubarb and a layer of blueberries and a cup of sugar. And I'm going to keep doing that until I've got this all processed with a total of 4 cups of sugar and approximately 6 to 7 pounds of fruit. Okay, I'll keep working at that now. I'm going to use later on in the recipe, you'll see that I'll probably add about 2 more cups of sugar. So all in all, to process 6 to 7 pounds of fruit, I'm going to use 6 cups of sugar. That might seem like a lot if you haven't made jams before, but if you have made jams with the traditional pectin method, you know that that's actually a very, very small amount. It's always used to just shock the heck out of you when I used to make jams with pectin, how much sugar I had to put in it. And the other reason I use 6 to 7 pounds is it tends to fit perfectly in here, and it tends to produce approximately 12 jars of jam, which is what I usually am aiming for. But you can see that it's all layered in there, and it's starting to get glossy because what's starting to happen is the sugar is starting to work into the fruit and draw out the juices. I'm not going to be getting rid of the juices, but I'm going to be processing it a little differently. And I hope you stick around. Tomorrow I'm going to come back and I'll show you the next few stages of this. And now I'm going to stick this in the fridge. Okay, I do not want to let it sitting on the counter. I wanted it to be chilling so that it'll be food safe. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Grow Together homestead. It's been a couple of days since I started work on my rhubarb blueberry jam. It was crazy around here yesterday. I couldn't get around to doing this, which is one of the best things about this method, is that you can leave this, I'll admit it, I've left it for up to 4 days. And it still turned out great. There were no problems. It was delicious. I'm just going to do a quick show you here of how much juice is being released. Okay, as you can see, it's just draining right off of there. And so now what I'm going to do is the second part of this, as I said, which is I'm going to drain this fruit and get as much of the liquid out as I can before I boil it down into jam. Normally, if you let it drain for a minimum of 2 hours, that's good. You want to have it chilling while you're doing that. You don't want it to be harboring any bacteria while you're waiting for it to drain. So when it's a little bit cooler and a little bit darker and I've walked the dog and made dinner, I'll come back and show you the rest of this. Alright, so we'll see you soon. I've got my jars sterilized and in the oven ready to go. I've got all of my tools for canning in the oven, all sterilized, ready to go. Now, I know some of you might be interested in how to go about sterilizing and canning and water bathing, and I'd be really happy to show you all that, but I'm not going to go into that much detail today because otherwise you're going to be watching this video for half an hour. So I promise in the next week or so I will do a video on how to properly sterilize and prepare for water bath canning, because it's extremely important that that's done well. Now, I have got my fruit all drained, lovely, ready to go here. I'm going to put that on the oven. Stove. I'm lucky here that I have an outdoor kitchen, because my God, I would not want to be doing this in my kitchen on a summer night, but I can do it out here, and so I'm going to. I've got my nice fruit here. I'm going to put it over here on this back burner. I'm going to let that cook down for almost a whole hour. Now the other thing that I have here is all that juice. Do you see that? Like, that's a lot of juice. I've got almost 2 liters of juice here from the fruit that I masticated with the organic sugar. And now what I'm going to do is I'm also going to boil that down in a separate pot as well at the same time. So I'm basically doing 2 preparations with the same materials. Some of it will come back together again, and some of it won't. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to bring both of these up to a nice full rolling boil. Okay, and once that happens, I'm going to add a couple things to it. So that you guys don't have to sit and wait for that to happen, I'm going to show you what that is. It's not hard to remember this, guys. Now, I know that these are both high acid fruits that we've used here today, but as I said, I am a little uptight when it comes to canning safety. So one of the things I always add to almost everything is lemon juice. So I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of lemon juice to each of these pots. And the other thing that I'm going to add, once they start boiling, is 1 cup of organic sugar. So once these guys get going, and full rolling boil, both of them, I'm going to stir a lot. I don't want it to sear. I want it to just boil down and be nice. I'm going to add, once again, 1 cup of organic sugar and 1/4 cup of lemon juice to both of these pots. Okay? And then I'll come back and I'll join you again and show you the last step before I can them all up. Okay? So we'll see. Okay. So it's been about 15 minutes since you last saw me. As you can see here, this is definitely full rolling boil. Now I need this to boil a lot more than I need this to boil. Okay? This I just want to get down to nice jammy goodness. Alright, and it's getting there. I'm stirring constantly. I do not want this to scorch the pan. And but this I need to boil down a lot. I want to reduce this to about 1/3 the size that it was. I'm going to add my 1/4 cup of lemon juice. And I don't really care about going back and forth with the same spoon. Reason being is that I am going to be incorporating some of this liquid back into the jam. That is back up to full rolling boil with my liquid. I'm going to add that down. Okay. I have it on a higher heat. And I have the fruit mixture. This is the juice, as I said. I'm trying to reduce that down to about 1/3, maybe even 1/4 of where it was. Whereas this, I just want to get some nice jammy texture. It's actually getting there, so I can reduce this quite a bit in heat, because as you can see, it's got a really nice texture. then I'll show you a little trick later with the frozen plate to make sure that I got it to the right temperature. Okay, people, it's about 30 minutes since the last time I checked in, which is about 45 minutes total for the processing time of this, boiling time of this jam, and it's the accompanying fluids. As you can see, this has boiled down quite a bit, and this is almost a perfect texture. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stir this a little bit more. I've had this on a slightly lower heat. All the rhubarb has broken down, the blueberry is really nice, and this has boiled down here to less than half its original capacity. There's been a quarter cup of sugar added to each of these, and a quarter cup of lemon juice and a cup full of sugar. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add about half of this into here. It's not an exact science, people. I just want this to still have some of that lusciousness, sauciness that jam has. I don't want it to be this hard fruit puree. I want it to be a nice jammy jam. And so I've added about half that juice back in now that it's stirred down. This is almost ready. I'm going to go grab a plate from the freezer to see if it's set up right. And I'm going to keep boiling this down because this is going to make a different product now. Hey everyone, it's been about another 5 minutes since last we spoke. I have got a sterilized spoon here. I have a plate I brought out of the deep freeze. It's frozen and it's white. What I'm going to do to make sure, I can tell this is perfect, but just if you're not sure, what you do is you take a spoonful of it with a sterilized spoon and you put it on a frozen plate. Okay? You might want to let it sit for a second because honestly, it's hot. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my finger through it. Perfect. Do you see how it's not running together? That's perfect. That is exactly perfect. Okay, so I'm going to turn this off. Now this here is still boiling down. And I think I can turn it off though because I'm going to make some cordial with it. I'll see if Angus wants to come out and talk to you about that. And now I'm going to can these two things up. Okay, so now we're just going to process these in half-pint jars for about 20 minutes. I live in Alberta in a really high altitude, so we have to boil a little bit longer. You could probably get away with doing your jams for 10 to 15 minutes where you are, but where we are, we have to do 20 minutes. So I'm probably going to get about 13, 15 jars of products, jars of jam. And Angus, you're actually probably more excited about this stuff, aren't you? What are you going to do with this?
If you put it in jars, you can, so we have a soda stream, so we can make sparkling water at home, and from that sparkling water we can add a little bit of cordial to create blueberry soda.
Yeah, and that's what we do with a lot of this. We create sodas, and another thing I like to do is we use it sometimes in desserts where it's asking for a flavoring. So yes, I've got tons of jam here, but I also have this nice syrup. It's good from cocktails, okay, as well. And it's a lot lower sugar, no pectin, much fruitier tasting, right? Okay. So I hope, as always, you will ask us questions. If there's anything you want to see here, we will do another video very soon on actually sterilizing, canning, water bathing, all that stuff, and lots of other canning stuff, fermenting. We do it all here. And so if you have any questions about that, please let us know. Yeah? And as always, we hope you'll take this chance to grow together today.
Yep.
Subscribe if you have any questions or if you want to see more stuff about what we're doing here on the homestead.
Yes. And if you want to see the ducklings.
The ducklings, that's right.